So our reading today came from John 8, and the truth will set you free. Well, the Jews said that they were children of Abraham and had never been slaves. I say I'm a citizen of the United States and I've never been a slave. Okay? That's not really true when you think about it. Because we have some masters in our lives, some more than others. One big one that I think every person has at least bowed down to at one point is debt. Debt really enslaves us, doesn't it? Sometimes they say there's good debt. I don't know if there is such a thing. But people get into debt and they, for whatever reason, keep spending and make it worse and worse till you get to the point where the burden is so heavy you truly are a slave to it. You can't seem to get away from it. Well, there's one form or one thought as far as a master and a slave. I jokingly say that we're kind of slaves to our government when you think about it. Yes, I've paid off my house, but just let me try not to pay my taxes and see what happens. That house will no longer be mine if I persist. So in a way, yeah, we're kind of enslaved to our government. But we're fortunate in this country that we at least can vote and perhaps guide things along the way, which is also a message to vote coming up. But when you think about it, we vote for people who we think are like us, who we hope are going to be benevolent servants and not get into office and be corrupted by the power and become self-serving. We really hope that happens. We really think that we pick the right people sometimes. We don't know because power in itself enslaves people sometimes. We see that a lot in this world. So there's sometimes that we actually feel like our family might enslave us. Now, my wife and I are kind of at that juncture where we're caring for my mother-in-law, but we also have our children and their children. So our time is tied up trying to cover all the bases, trying to make sure that we have enough time for the grandchildren, but also are making sure that we're taking care of mom. That sometimes can feel like enslavement. Here's another one that you might not have ever thought about. How about traditions? Aren't we kind of slaves to traditions? Every one of us has a morning tradition we follow. We get up, eat, brush our teeth, whatever we do. Maybe do some reading. And we do the same thing at night when we go to bed. We have our own little tradition we follow. And we feel like we're lost if we don't follow it. We're kind of enslaved to it, aren't we? Well, Jesus was talking about traditions in a whole nother light. He happened to share in Matthew 16 something very interesting. What he shared was to not take the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees in your life, or to live by it. Well, what was he saying? Well, first of all, the disciples were arguing about bread. They thought he was talking about bread. So he circles back around and tells them again about the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Well, the leaven gets in the flour, of course, mixes all through it, and the whole batch is the same, right? Well, he's really talking about the teachings of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. All of those man-made traditions that they started. The temple tax. Money changers to buy animals for the sacrifice. All of those things that they made up that weren't really biblically based. But they were there to help empower themselves. Well, think about it. Isn't that what happened in the 1500s? That's what Luther was all about. Hey, this whole thing has been perverted. We're now selling indulgences that are worthless. It's worthless paper you're buying, among many other things that were in error at the time, including the fact that it was thought that priests were direct connections to God and people could not speak to him directly, to God directly. Where did that come from? That's not in the Bible anywhere. So Luther does this reset, right? The Reformation. Didn't quite turn out the way he thought it was going to turn out. He just wanted to reform the church, but things got a little out of hand, I think. But the plus side of it is there was this reset. There was this wonderful thought of, let's get back to the truth, what the Word actually says. And that's the basis of what happened with the Reformation. Of course, we know that since then, some things have been kind of twisted, and there's splinter groups that come along and have their own take and interpretation of the Bible, which, are a little out there. But what's really good about this whole message is when you get down to the bottom of it. And he says that a slave does not abide in the house forever, but a son abides forever. Therefore, if the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. If you think about it, a slave didn't even know day to day what was going to happen to them. They could be put to death. They could be sold to someone else. But a son, an heir was taken care of, weren't they? An heir wasn't going anywhere. They were going to inherit everything. And that's what Jesus did for us. We are the heirs. He has set us free from all the burdens, especially sin, that would weigh us down and not allow us to make it to heaven. No way that we're ever going to be able to do that by ourselves. He did it for us. He brought us into the fold. And what's really nice about that is every one of us, all of us baptized believers, hear the Word of God ourselves. We hear it in our hearts, don't we? We know it's true. That spark, that freedom that we know is there for us, here in this world and forever on. What a wonderful hope we have in what Jesus has done for us. We are heirs. We hear the Word, although sometimes a little weakly. We're not really in tune sometimes. Sometimes we still stray. But we come back because we still hear the Word and we know the Lord is there with us, walking with us all the way. So let's live with that spark in our hearts, that spark of hope that we truly are free indeed. Amen.